Hey, how you doing? You're watching Rejoice with Pastor Chuck. Thank you for watching the show. You could be watching any show in the world, but you chose to watch us, and we're so very, very grateful. Yeah, we're right in the midst of the CV 1 to the 9 in the 2020, and we are resistant so far. The TVSB studios are opened for business, and we are filming. We want to ask that you just continue to keep your thoughts and your prayers for those who are going through the ups and downs of these difficult times that, we don't know. Could be you, could be me. And so we just want to be supportive and share the love. We've been doing this show for, multiple years now, and people have been asking me, and one of my dear friends, one of the great producers here, Dr. J.P. Motabo, asked, he said, what about you? We know the guest, but what about you? And I said, well, I'm just a guy. And he said, but yeah, people want to know about the guy. And so today I want to, we want to dive deep into the guy that is me. Now, that's a kind of a scary thing if you want to think about it. But I want to encourage you that there's something special about being here on public access. It rewards us the opportunity to share the untold stories. Stories of neighbors, friends, community leaders, organizations that are in our cities, towns that sometimes don't get the national recognition or the major networks or even the bigger TVs. But right here on local access, we can cover those stories. We can highlight those people and celebrate those. And I want to share, some people say, well, Chuck, how did you get involved? And before I got involved, they said, well, Chuck, who are you? One little lady. And I kind of, there was some sarcasm behind her voice. You can kind of tell if you learn how to read between the lines. She says, who are you? But she was really saying, who are you? And I understood that. And she really wanted to understand who the person was behind this thing called Rejoice, this show that we do here on this wonderful place we call public access. And so here I'm just a guy, Chuck Reed. I grew up in the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, near the Watts area. If you've ever flown a plane into LAX and you've been about 5 or 6 minutes out of landing your aircraft, your plane in LAX, you flew over my house. You flew over where I grew up at, what they call South Central or Inglewood, Southgate, LA, El Segundo, touchdown, or you're into the Pacific. And so that's where I grew up at. And I grew up in the time of the 60s, 1965. I can remember the time of the Watts riots and what I thought were little green army men, National Guard marching down the street. I remember seeing the smoke and the fire. I remember the Kennedy assassination. I remember King's assassination. I remember Malcolm X's assassination. I remember the look on my grandmother's face the day that those things happened. I remember the feeling around the house, the shock, the awe. But one thing I also remember is how people came together and they started to communicate more, much like how we're doing today. It's amazing how trouble or strife or turmoil, things that are normally will push us away, will kind of pull us together. I think that's the beautiful thing we find here in America, in Santa Barbara and across this great country. A couple of the questions that the little lady asked me, she said, who are you and where are you from? And when I shared that story about being this little kid growing up in Watts, I remember the little 70s song about riding in a lowrider, diamond in the back, sunroof top with a gangster lean. I remember this little shot of me being in this little baby stroller in my mom's backyard, 5 or 6 years old, little snotty-nosed kid rolling around. And that's when I used to be cute. It was a long time ago. Same hairstyle pretty much. But that was, middle of LA in the 60s and easier times. I remember we never had our back door locked. I don't think the front door was ever locked. There was always a neighbor, hanging out in the front yard or backyard. There was always some kind of community gathering. And that's just what we did. That's what Americana was about. then I got another question from a little friend over the net, and they asked, what did you do before ministry? What did you do before I got involved? I've been in ministry for almost 30 years. What did you do before ministry? I said, wow, well, I technically went to school to be a mechanical design engineer. I was a drafter, a mediocre drafter, and got a job at a place called Hughes Aircraft. Remember, we were on the flight path of LAX, and so we would get up every other day as kids, and we would jog down, ride our bikes down to LAX and watch the aircraft land, and we were like, wow, I want to work with those things. And so as I got older, I went through engineering and drafting, and I got a job at Hughes Aircraft and in El Segundo, and we were part of a design team, and we did missile guidance systems and radar guidance systems, and we loved that job. I loved the smell of the machine shop early in the morning, and the check fitting equipment and making sure that the aircraft had what it took to do its flight, and I just loved doing that. And one day, as we were sitting there in one of those briefing rooms, we were watching some of our equipment, which we also did space and comm equipment. We had a satellite going up and one of those beautiful space shuttles, and as we sat there watching this beautiful space shuttle take off and go vertical, and all of the work and the design efforts that we had been putting into and trying to keep America great, the things that we were doing went up in smoke with the explosion of this space shuttle. And I remember sitting there looking around the room with these scientists and technicians and engineers and assembly line workers and supervisors, and watching the looks on their face as all of the hard work that we went into to design this aircraft suddenly went up in smoke. And I realized at that point that everything that I had worked, all those crazy overtime hours, missing away from the family, all that time I spent working on those military aircraft, that it was going to kill somebody either on an accident or on purpose. And I asked myself, is that what I want to do with my life? Now, I love the machine shop, man. If you want to understand the sound of freedom, feel the roar and the thunder of an F-15 going vertical. You can feel that thing shake. You can feel the thunder. You can feel the sound of freedom. And that's what that aircraft represented to me. But it also represented death. And as much as I loved what we worked on and what we did, and I said I couldn't look at myself anymore and feel that was what I was doing for a living. And after much contemplation, I went back into lifeguarding and swimming. It's a big difference in paycheck when you go from $80,000 a year as a tool design engineer for a major aircraft corporation in the 80s to a $21,000 a year lifeguard working at county swimming pools and county beaches. You got to do something else. And so we started lifeguarding and coaching full time. And the amazing thing about the coaching aspect of it is I didn't really like the kids. And they didn't like me. Because from the engineering side, from coming from the aircraft business every day, going to the pools, working part-time nights and weekends, we would get there and I was a night guy and we'd have to clean up before the little kids got in there, and they were always in my way. And I didn't like them, they didn't like me. You little kids, get out of the way. And they're like, you big grumpy lifeguard guy, you get out of the way. And so that was our battle every day. I'm moving them and they're moving me. And then one day the swim coach didn't show up. And he says, Coach, Chuck, can you walk? The manager walks in and says, Chuck, can you work out the kids for an hour? And I'm like, I get a chance to get back at those little rascals. And what we did for an hour was swim a lap, jump out, do 10 push-ups, swim another lap, jump out, do another 10 push-ups. And that's what we did for an hour. And the kids hated it. Parents loved it. Kids walked away dragging their arms and moaning and complaining. But at the end of the day, I can honestly tell you that one of those children that was on that swim team is now flying military aircraft because he went to one of those air shows and he saw what those aircraft could do. And he's a proud American soldier, flyboy. And a couple of other those young men that were on that team went off to do bigger and greater things, because one thing we always try to do is always push a young person beyond what they think they can do. Part of what we've been doing is working on redeveloping what we do and how we do this, as far as the mechanics of swimming and the mechanics of life and mechanics of how do you go faster in the water. And a lot of it is breathing control and learning how to, in the midst of our struggle, to just stop and just take that deep breath. With everything we've been watching so far, man, it's so easy to get caught up and to get frustrated and to watch things and not take the time to relax and enjoy a moment. And that's what I learned through swimming. Was once I was in the water, man, there was nothing but me in the water going. And that's what I taught my kids. When you're in the water, it's you. How fast can you go? You decide that. And so many of those young people were able to set their own limits and then go faster. Competition swimming can be won or lost in a second by a technique. Are you pitching in? Are you pitching out? Are you pulling hard? Are you pulling a kick? What is your rhythm? And so some of those things, some of those little syncopative, harmonious things that someone wouldn't even think about, when it comes down to milliseconds in the water, it's so important. And such is life. We have the opportunity almost every day, every moment, to change a life. Sometimes it's just with a smile, a stroke, a flinch, a gesture. And how many lives have we really changed today, this week, this month? You know, when we came here so many years ago, almost 10 years ago, I never thought that I would be pastoring here in Santa Barbara. Just a good old country boy from the hood in Watts. Never thought. I didn't even know anybody here in Santa Barbara. Didn't even see it on a map. And one of the questions popped up is, how do we get to, what attracted us to Santa Barbara? And I remember this was almost 10, 12 years ago. You never know how we did a series called Divine Appointments, because you never know how your life will unfold and will bring you to a certain point in your life. And we had a meeting. We went to a conference with a group of local pastors and elders throughout the Methodist Church in the Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area, where I had been a youth pastor for many years. And we were called into a meeting with Bishop Henry H. Williamson. Never forget that young man, God bless him. Called us into a meeting and he says, Chuck, we need to make sure your wife is here with you, because big decisions have to be made. I said, what is a bishop? I felt like I was being called into the principal's office. And he called us in and he says, I want to talk to you and your wife. We have two available churches. We have one in Bakersfield. Well, I know I have friends in Bakersfield. Like, I can go to Bakersfield. I got some homies out there. And then this place called Santa Barbara, which I know nothing about. And I'm thinking my wife can look at it. I'm getting ready to say Bakersfield, and she kicks me under the table. I'm like, ouch. And being the wise young man that I am, I graciously said, well, Bishop, we'll go to Santa Barbara. And we came here, not knowing anything about Santa Barbara. I was working at an aquatics facility in LA, and also working at Caltech. And it took me a long time to get into Caltech, and we loved working there. You know, it's an amazing place, Caltech. And if I could just touch on something that I learned at Caltech, think of that Caltech, that spot. I met a friend there at Caltech, and she says, Chuck, I understand the struggles of black Americans here. I understand the struggle of being an African American. We're working at Caltech, and I look at her and I said, I don't get you. I don't understand. What do you know about the struggles of being an African American? She says, Chuck, and I look at her. She's got long blonde hair, beautiful skin, and blue eyes, and she says, I'm from South Africa, and I'm blonde, and I get the stereotype how I'm very educated, and yet they look at me and all they see is a dumb blonde. And I was like, oh, yes. Sometimes we do look at each other and just see an outward look, and we never know what's on the inside. And here she is, a brilliant scientist, yet she's looked at as a dumb blonde. And she says, Chuck, I understand what you go through, because they don't really know you. They just look at the color and assume that's what you are, not even knowing the content or your education or your character or your heart. And knowing that kind of helped me here in Santa Barbara, because coming here as a pastor, I had the audacity to think that I was sent here as a Methodist preacher, black Methodist preacher, to build a black Methodist church in Santa Barbara, and that was my assignment, to resurrect this Methodist church in Santa Barbara. And I quickly found out that it was easier to build a church of 6'5" and over guys than to build a black church in Santa Barbara. And so I just preached to everybody. I didn't care what you look like, where you came from. And I just loved on people. My first Sunday here in town, I realized I'm a very nervous person. I took a walk around the block, and new in town, I don't know anything about Santa Barbara. I walked from Gutierrez to State Street. What is State Street about? What's State Street? I'm walking up State Street, and here I go, and then I walk up a few blocks. I see a little restaurant. I hook another little corner. I go down 2 blocks. I walk, and I see a little park. And as I'm going through the park, 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, my first Sunday, getting ready to preach my first Sunday in church, I see 2 guys in the corner, wrapped up, shooting up heroin on a Sunday morning. And I think and I say to myself, Lord, show me a way to help. Show me a way to help. And I found out something that it changed my prayer life. It made me stop praying for stuff and things and places. And it made me pray for the needs of others. And the lifestyle of others. And once I started doing that, I realized that prayer really worked when it was prayed for someone else. Because within a short time, I was involved with the police department, and got involved as their chaplain, and got involved in boots on the ground street ministry, and we went from pastoral ministry, from pastoring several different multicolored, multi-ethnical, multifaceted churches, to being a boots on the ground police chaplain, strolling the tough streets of Santa Barbara early in the morning, and really just getting to know and to love and to take care of those who are less fortunate, those who are down and out. And I was fortunate to be able to do this out of uniform in as a what we call a community service liaison position, where we were able to just to come in and help the young people and seasoned people who are on the street, just by mainly just saying hello, assisting with, how should you say, nuisance issues, but really just being someone who those in need could talk to, could communicate to be an olive branch between the businesses and law enforcement and the different agencies that could extend the help. You know, there's, for every need there is a source of help. You have mission, you have the PATH programs, you have multiple agencies, you have the department, you have the county, the city, and all the church organizations that are here that are willing to help people. So the need is great, and so are the people in the services that are willing to help people. The issue is those who need the help. So many of them won't take the help. They are afraid for whatever reason. One young lady I worked with on the street for many years, she looked me in the eye one day and says, Chuck, I'm afraid to go into the mission. I'm afraid to go into the housing. I'm afraid to go into any one of these places where they're going to take care of me. I said, well, why are you afraid? And it broke my heart. And she looked me in the eye and she says, because bad things happen inside. And I understood. And it gave me a deeper sense of compassion to be out and to minister and to help. And sometimes a smile or a cup of coffee or a greeting in the morning, it goes such a long way. So many people out there on the street are hurting. They just want to be loved on. They want someone to acknowledge them. Imagine going through your entire day and no one saying hello, no one smiling, no one even knowing your name, no one even taking the time to know your name. Wow. Just think about that. Man, there's an old song or an old things that come on where they would open up the bar scene and everybody knew the guy's name. Hey, he's here. Everybody knows the guy's name. Just think if you lived in a city and nobody took the time to know your name. No one took the time to smile. To say, hey, good morning. Good to see you. 2020. Almost toward the end of the year. It's a year that none of us have ever experienced before. Man, it's been a mind blower to me. I don't know about you. I'm excited, though, to see what we have next. You know, it's always amazing when we lick the thumb and turn to the next page and next chapter of our life, and we see what's next. I'm in the developmental stage right now, yeah, I know. I'm pushing 60 years old. I know I look like I'm there, but it's amazing how we reinvent ourselves every day. Reinvent ourselves every day. And so I want you, this is a homework assignment I'm going to give you. A homework assignment. I want you to enhance yourself. I want you to start to increase. I want you to start off by doing this simple exercise. Simple exercise. Simple exercise. I want you to learn to breathe. When you see someone, breathe. When you see someone, smile. And when you do that, hold it for about 3 seconds. And then go to the next person. And throughout your day, I want you to practice that simple breathing exercise and watch your heart rate come down. Watch your inner peace be restored. Watch when you're standing there in the midst of a crowded arena, you'll see nothing but sky, blue sky, and rolling hills. And you'll enjoy your life even that much better. And there's something about this cable access that has given me the opportunity to share my story. And I want you to know that right here in the beautiful city of Santa Barbara, if you get off the 101 at Salinas and start rolling up the hill, first stop sign you'll hit, you look over your shoulder, you're going to see a little place called TVSB. Oh, you need to come on by and look into opening up your own show, your own program. It may be a mini-series, a docu-series. You may want to come in and shoot the family bar mitzvah or the family wedding or the get-together the next time the family's together. Or maybe you just want to interview that old grumpy grandpa or talk some sense into someone. Maybe there's a young person that has some struggling issues and you have a story to relate. Someone related a story to me one day. Says, hey, Chuck, are you sure you want to be that guy you're going to be? Or do you want to go ahead and step out on faith and see the world? It's a big world out there. You want to take that leap of faith and see it. The scripture talks about rejoicing. Let your life be a life of rejoicing. Let your life be a life of love. Thank you for watching this show. Once again, you could be watching any show in the world. We're so grateful that you tuned into us. Thank you for watching. Take a deep breath and enjoy. Rejoice.